Friends, we are very happy to inform you that e-modules are prepared for B.Ed program at Telangana by the School of Education, Osmania University under Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme MHRD New Delhi. It's indeed our pleasure to share with the teacher educators and the prospective teachers and get maximum benefit out of it. It's a first of its attempt by us. We continue to add many more such lessons to share with you all.
Good morning. Welcome to the series. Today I shall be covering the topic Aims and Objectives of Teaching Prose, Poetry, Grammar, Pedagogical Analysis. Before I start the topic, let us see the slide of objectives. The objectives will help the student teacher to develop the ability to differentiate between the objectives of teaching English prose, poetry, grammar and composition. Student teachers will be able to comprehend its meaning and deliberate on its key aspects. Student teachers will get acquainted with it by incorporating various elements. The last objective is to assist student teachers in reflections on current understanding of the objectives of teaching English prose, poetry, grammar, compositions and its pedagogical analysis. So, what actually is the goal of any language curriculum? So, the goal of any language curriculum will be literacy. And what do we mean by literacy? Literacy means the ability to read and write, but it is in the narrow sense. But UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization has given a very broad definition of language curriculum. That is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, compute and use print as well as written material linked with varying contexts. So, the broader term of the goals of literary language curriculum is it is the ability to identify and understand, also interpret and create, compute and use both written material as well as print material with varying context. This is the definition of the goal of curriculum in its broader aspect. Now, coming to the National Curriculum Framework 2005, they have set the goal for second language curriculum as attainment of basic proficiency. Now, what do we mean by basic proficiency? Basic proficiency means the ability to communicate. Okay? The day-to-day conversation that we deal with, we have should be in the language. That is the basic competency of any language. So, attainment of basic proficiency such as is acquired in the natural language learning, that is the spontaneous and appropriate use of language for everyday purpose. So, that is the first aim or the goal of second language curriculum with respective National Curriculum Framework 2005. And the second fold is the second goal of National Curriculum Framework with respect to second language curriculum is the development of language into an instrument for abstract thoughts and knowledge acquisition. So, this falls into cognitive, academic, linguistic proficiency. So, basically National Curriculum Framework 2015 sets goal into two folds. First is basic interpersonal communication skills and cognitive, academic, linguistic proficiency. So, as an individual, we should be competent in day-to-day conversation. Also, we must possess proficiency in understanding that language in order to able to comprehend the abstract thoughts also. So, in general, we will deal first in general with the objectives of teaching English. So, English teaches us to be competence, to develop the competency to listen, to understand and respond. Okay. So, the basic competency or the ability which English teaches you or the second language curriculum teaches you is the ability to listen, to understand and to respond. Competence to respond orally to what is viewed, read or listened to. Okay. So, it develops the ability to respond to what you have read, what you have understood and what you have listened to. So, the competency of second language curriculum also teaches you to be competent to read, understand and respond orally, graphically or in writing. So, an individual is able to express orally, graphically in the sense if there are any graphical representation, pictorial representation, the individual will be able to express in his own words, express his view on the shown pictorial items in his own words and also they can represent the pictorial in writing form also. It also develops the competency to respond in writing to what is viewed, read or listened to. So, suppose we have a classroom interaction with the teacher. So, what do? We make a note of the transaction which is happening in the classroom, the teaching learning process which happens in the classroom. As a student, we pen down the important points. Competence to understand and use various forms and idiomatic expressions. So, when you take up a language, language is a system which has many subsystems. Like we have vocabulary, we have grammar, we have morphology, we have syntactic, it is semantic. So, it is a culmination of all these systems. So, in order to be competent in speaking, you should be possessing pretty good knowledge about the vocabulary and also the idiomatic expressions which makes your language more polished. Competence to use language creatively. Language teaches you to be creative, to trigger your thinking ability and to be creative in your own way. So, it not only makes us creative, but also develop aesthetic sensibility and social responsibility. So, it also helps us to appreciate, to develop the sense of appreciation and also our social responsibility towards the community, towards the state, towards the nation. So, it also helps you to develop your aesthetic responsibility and also social responsibility. Last but not the least, it is the competency in metalinguistic awareness. So, language helps you beyond the textbook, helps you think beyond the textbook, beyond the resources which is available to you. Coming to the detailing of each of the aspect, that is the competence to listen to understand and to respond. So, how should we as teachers and as students, how should we develop this competency in us? Okay. So, how can we develop? We can develop this ability by listening to the gist, listening for specific information and listening for pleasure. So, we are basically enhancing our listening abilities. So, when you listen properly, you understand better and you speak better, and make use of any verbal but also non-verbal, graphical, contextual clues to understand the message. So, not only that we are listening to the transaction which is happening, apart from that non-verbal communication also you will be able to understand and respond appropriately, either orally or in written. The second competence is competence to respond orally to what is viewed, read or listened to. So, how should we be developing this competency? This basically requires speaking skills, speaking ability. How should we as students and we as teachers develop this ability among our students and we personally is by able to communicate on a given topic. For example, for instance, we can have just a minute session, we can also have role play where you are into the role and you are becoming that person and are able to express yourself. So, these small strategies or activities will help you develop your speaking skills. Okay. We can also arrange for speeches, impromptu and extempore speeches, on the spur of a moment. If you are asked to speak, how should you be speaking? This basically develops your speaking skills. Okay, we have listed few of the speaking skills as just a minute session, a role play, discussions, peer group discussion, pair group discussion, discussion collaboratively, you are working on a activity and then you are discussing over it, small debates you can arrange, you can have your version of understanding of any topic. This are some of the examples which I have listed, and through that you can develop the speaking abilities of your students. So, the next competency is to read, understand and respond orally, graphically or in writing. Now, how should we develop the reading skills? Reading makes a man complete. Reading helps you develop your vocabulary. Reading helps you develop your competency to able to speak confidently in the language, in whichever language. Reading has great scope in it. You develop yourself by reading, both silent and loud reading has its own importance. Through silent reading you develop your vocabulary, your various aspects of language, and when you read aloud, then your diction, your pronunciation, the flow of words, the pauses which you make, these are the aspects which you look for when you read aloud. So, how should we be developing reading? You start reading with story books of various genre, fiction, non-fiction, fiction, non-fiction, story books of small children which has moral behind. Also you can take up fables, fairy tales. There are n number of story books which is available. Even the text which has been prescribed for various classes by the state government, central government, so NCERT English books, SCERT books you can take up and you can read, understand what is there in the text given, think beyond the text. So, reading is a very good exercise. The learner should be able to construct meaning by reading critically, posing questions while reading, drawing inferences and relating the text with the various previous knowledge or experience they possess. So, reading, so when you are reading keeping in mind the following things. You are reading for critically analyzing the text, you are reading to infer meaning, you are reading because you want to connect whether there is your previous knowledge connected with the text. So, it should be able to select suitable strategies and adjust their reading speed. and comprehension level to what they read, bearing in mind the purpose of reading. Suppose you are reading, for preparing for seminar. So how should your reading be? You will be focusing on the points, which you want to deliver. Suppose you are reading for pleasure, then how should you be reading? You will be reading, silent reading as per your own convenience, the time you take out from your busy schedules, and then you allot time for, reading for pleasure. The reader must, keep in mind, they should be able to read different genre of language text as their levels, such as there are variety of genre which is available in the reading material. So you can look for story, you can look for narration, you can look for description, rhymes, songs, poems, notices, posters, biography, you name it, you have it. There is a great resource for reading. The fourth important skill is writing. How should we develop the competency to respond in writing? Okay, this is a very important skill that we must possess, is the ability to express ourselves. So the one very important which is being prescribed for BA 2 years course is maintaining of reflective journal. Reflective journal teaches you, the various aspects of writing. A student develops as he or she pens down the daily activities that they encounter in the college, they experience in the college, they have the habit of noting it down in their reflective journal. The purpose of it is that they will be able to develop the skill to express. They will express their own, in their own, there is a personal expression, each one has their own opinion. Okay, and you are going to continue this reflective journal for 4 semesters, and all the activities which is happening in the college, the field experience, you pen it down, you reflect on it, and you write it down in the reflective journal. So the ability to develop writing skills. How should the learner develop? Learner should be able to respond in writing to what is viewed, read or listened to by organizing their thoughts coherently. When you think, you don't straight away pen down, there is a rough draft you do. So the things that comes to your mind, you pen it down and then you go through it, and then as per the sequence or chronological order, you record the actions. They should be coherent, and then cohesive devices you need to add to it. And when you structure any writing piece, there is a format for it. You start with the introduction, then there is body, then there is conclusion. So you have a format for writing. So there are various types of writing you can take up, that is descriptive writing, narrative writing, persuasive writing, and expository writing. So when you teach writing skills, there are linkers in it, there is cohesive devices in it, there is lexical repetition with a sense of audiences and purposes. They should use different indicator as per the discourses they write. So when we take up in the classroom, there are various types of discourses we ask our students to do. Like once, suppose a teacher takes up a lesson, the next, after she does the reading segment, the next thing is that she or he emphasizes on taking discourse, construction of discourse, that is both oral discourse and written discourse. In discourses, you are triggering their mental ability. You are, providing them with such hard questions, higher order thinking questions, which has analytical aspect in it, inferential aspect in it, seeking information aspect in it, and then you pose in front of the students these questions, you list out, the students think about it, and they will be representing or expressing their responses with connection with the question asked in their own words. Next is competence to understand and use various words and idiomatic expressions. English is a beautiful language. You develop, there is a sea of words, there is idiomatic expressions which adds polish to your language. Nobody teaches you, that's a skill you have to develop. Skill of there are various skills. When skill it is enhanced by practicing. Same way, in order to be proficient or develop competency in English language, you should be exercising the skill of practice. You must practice to speak in English as per your own pace, and then there should be a error correction. Where am I wrong in my speech? How can I correct it? What are the sources of my error corrections? Where I have committed error, whether with respect to the structure of the sentence which I have spoken, whether it is the error is pertaining the meaning which I have expressed. So where is actually the error? You need to work on it. First of all, we must give the student a space, and we must provide enough, encourage them to come out with their version, and then error correction happens at the end. So the competence to understand and use various words and idiomatic expressions is very important. Learners should be able to understand and use various words and idiomatic expressions as they listen to, read, speak or write while performing various tasks involving English language. You must provide ample scope for the learners to read, to involve themselves. For example, there are lessons in the text. If you ask the story, to be played by the students in the form of a skit and drama, their learning is not only permanent, it is long lasting. The student will not forget the character they have played. They might forget the answer if they mug up. They have learnt it through rote memorization. The memory will not last longer, but if they are involved in an act or drama or skit, their learning pertaining to it is lifelong. It's for greater length of span of time. Language is never used in uniform fashion. It has innumerable varieties, shades and colors, with surfaces in different domain and in different situation. These variations, known as registers, should from a part of students' repertoire. See, the student possesses ample space, abilities to think, to respond, to think creatively, to think innovatively. The space has to be provided for them to come out with their version of understanding of any given topic. Beside the registers of school subjects, a student must be able to understand and use variety of language being used in other domains such as music, sports, films, gardening, construction works, cookery, etc. Okay, and this was given by the National Curriculum Framework 2005 as a syllabus. See, for instance, now suppose a student wants to know the procedure of making a lemon juice. So the teacher, what can she do? She can ask the student, because this has great interest, everybody wants to make it. It is something innovative where you are involved, and the only thing that you tell your students, that you must be telling the procedure of making lime juice in English. The ingredients you get, the procedure is involved, has to be in English, so and the music that they learn, they probably have more inclined to, or that interests them, so they can develop the ability to sing in English. They have the ability, all the students possess, even they like most of the English songs. So you can have this innovation in your class, wherein you ask your students, apart from the regular textbook centered teaching which you have, you can arrange for a class wherein the students will be able to take up any of the aspects, music, or any sports thing, activity, or cookery, and then they can have discussion on it. So the next one is competence to use language creatively. How can we develop the competence to use language creatively? Children's mind are imbued with creativity and imagination, so they should be given ample scope to develop that. For instance, you can take a pictorial, a scene which is depicting something, and show your students and ask them to speak out what do they see in the picture which you are displaying. So that is picture reading. So here there is no right and wrong answer. Each student's response will be taken into consideration as they are expressing their version of understanding pertaining to the picture. If the classroom atmosphere is encouraging, and if suitable tasks that challenged the young brains are given, there will be able to produce oral and written discourse creatively. So as teachers, we should keep in mind, especially English language teachers, that we provide ample space and we should be patient in dealing with these students. Not only that, we keep encouraging them to carry on tasks, or we must work out with things that they learn better. Okay, so it is through pictures that you show them, flow charts, a report, a script of drama, a poem, a biography. It can be any piece of item that you can take for make sure that it is according to the interest of the children you are dealing with. You provide ample space. Yes, if they commit mistakes and error, you make sure that it's okay to commit mistakes, and we honor the responses, their silence, because these two pillars of communicative English is very much important, because the speaker or the child develops courage to come forward to speak to teacher regarding what they have understood pertaining to the topic presented. And the students develop confidence to say in his own words, if they go mum, nothing to panic about. You say nobody is perfect here, we do commit mistakes, and how do we overcome? By giving space, by letting them think over it and then come back again until they are better in the topic they have chosen. So the language also develops the aesthetic responsibility and social responsibility. The learner should be able to appreciate the beauty of literary piece by developing awareness of the literary devices like figuratives, language, imagery, allegory and symbolism. There is, figures of speech when you take a poem. The diction is different. There, the understanding, the meaning conveys is very much different when you compare with the prose. Prose you are able to easily comprehend as it is, in a English which we all communicate and we can understand what's written. Unlike poem, there is, figuratives which are involved, that is the figures of speech which are involved. So student can develop the ability to understand these figuratives, simile, metaphor, personification, all that. And we must also encourage students to write poems, though it may be a poem of 2 lines, 4 lines, a small stanza, but they should develop the ability to develop the aesthetic sense, appreciation, beauty, nature. There is seeing everything. There should be something, triggering in their brain. They should be able to, we as a teachers must inculcate the habit of encouraging them to write poems, short poems. They should be able to make informed aesthetic judgments and demonstrate an understand of artistic expressions through analysis. Any piece of art conveys, great thing. You should have an eye for it. It teaches you more beyond. So the expression of art you are developing among your students by making them appreciate, and developing aesthetic sense amongst them. The learner should be able to develop sensitivity to the issues presented in the text, such as conservation of resources, population concern, human rights violation, deforestation and sustainable development. There is great scope. The student should be able to think if the human rights violation is going on. They should be able to stand and speak for what they are seeing. If it is into violation of the human rights, we as a language curriculum make sure that they stand, speak for, and also develop the skills to represent in the form of writing, oral representation about any social responsibility which is going on or which we feel is not going in a proper sense. So the curriculum gives them the ample scope for appreciating the aesthetic sense and also make them socially responsible. They should be able to free their mind from prejudice against other cultures and other religions and unlearn certain misconceptions about people, culture and social issues. So, the basic and the very important aspect of being together, unity in diversity, is a true example of India. We must right from the beginning make sure that the student knows us better, follow it. Each religion has its own importance and is unique in its own sense. The misconceptions is to be unlearned. Okay. So, this curriculum on second language gives you the scope of appreciating aesthetic sense and also the social responsibility that a child must possess. So, competence in metalinguistic awareness. Metalinguistic awareness is the ability to view, analyze a language as a thing. Suppose you are given a topic or you have thrown light on a topic in your own version. The student will analyze it, view it, analyze it and pens it down in their version. Okay. As a process and as a system, the learner should be able to reflect on the use of language by demonstrating and understanding the statements may have a literary meaning and an implied meaning. Literary meaning is the meaning which is there in its true form. Implied meaning is the meaning what you comprehend pertaining to the given topic. They should be able to demonstrate and understand the subtitles of utterance of social and cultural context by recognizing irony and sarcasm. So, the student should be able to identify and differentiate between the literary form, the irony and the sarcasm. They should be able to manipulate sentences by transforming from one form, okay, to another. So, objectives of teaching English: prose, poetry, grammar, composition and pedagogical analysis. So, there are certain strategies that we need to work on. Preparing children as independent users of learner by setting their own learning goals and evaluate their own progress, edit, review, revise their own work through collaborative learning. We can attain the objectives of teaching English in various aspects by preparing the student independent user of language by setting their own learning goals and also evaluating, reviewing and then revising their own work through collaborative learning. Understanding and appreciating a wide variety or range of text representing different cultures, ways of living and genre of language. We by giving them ample resources, by helping them to go on with various genre, not limiting to specific, provide them with the ample scope or resources available, let them pick up of their interest and work on it. And they will be able to develop the competence to listen and understand conversation, informative passages, stories, anecdotes, etc. and respond appropriately. So, as such we are making students independent user of language. And to read and understand a variety of reading texts like stories, dramas, informative passages, tables, pictures, charts, ads, posters, etc. and respond appropriately in written as well as in spoken form. To articulate individual personal responses and vocabulary effectively in oral and written discourses. So, we should teach them the vocabulary of pertaining to various aspects, various fields, to enhance their language ability to speak. Okay, by better vocabulary skills, you are efficient speaker of English. To convert the text into theatre activities and sustain linguistic experience. So, suppose we teach to 8th, 9th, 10th students and the prescribed text by the government of Telangana and they have those lessons, let us make it into drama. We have students, you assign them the role, the script is prepared and then the props and the costume the student gets it and they have a pretty different classroom scenario and they do it with vibrant energy and they are highly into the scene. And coming to the grammar, which plays a very important and vital role when it comes to English, to use grammatical awareness while writing and editing. We should developing language competency to express is one thing and then editing their errors is one more very vital and important aspect. to write simple message. So how do we develop that? You know, we start up by giving them simple messages, notices, invitation. We ask them to go on with write slogans, you know, poster making. Okay, simple narratives and descriptive pieces kids play, and you also give them the chance for comparing, you know, anchoring, arrange something in the classroom and assign them works, you know, as a group, collaborative learning. Let them work on any of the festives that happen in the school, let them compare for it, you know. They learn to use language, they learn to be more confident to face the audience, they learn to speak by seeing the audience, you know. They learn to enhance their abilities to speak. To use language as a tool for knowledge acquisition and sharing, you know, it's a very important tool. Language is a very important tool, and you know, it has great knowledge you can acquire. It's a skill which is enhanced by acquiring, you know, acquire these skills and also share it. So to help use self-assessment tools appropriately, to be tolerant and receptive to his or her linguistic competence in a collaborative learning environment. Now we have learnt how to learn it, you know, how to practice, how to drill, how to, you know, exercise these skills, and now comes how to do the evaluation. You can very well develop a rubric, or you can have various tools, appropriate tools for assessment, you know. And to be able to tolerant and receptive to the linguistic competency in collaborative learning environment. Collaborative learning environment, you have mixed levels of students, you know, some will be gifted, some will be above average, some will be below average. So by collaborative learning, they share learning. Okay, even the one which possesses, you know, a little intelligence, or he or she is low, you know, low proficient, but seeing their interacting the other students, they will also develop the learning skills. We must also teach them to use the dictionary to edit any given passage. How do you develop the corrections, you know, errors? How do we correct the language errors, you know? So by giving short passages, or the grammatical sentences or conventions, and then asking them to edit what is wrong in it. Okay, so to help the learners think independently and use English creatively and spontaneously, it's a needed in a real class situation, and we must make sure that we must ask students to come out with any of the story that they like, and ask them to, you know, say it in your classroom. Once a week, the teacher must inculcate this habit among the students, or twice a week the student not only develop you know, confidence to see the audience, to face the audience, but also they will be well acquainted with the form of storytelling. You know, you will not go monotonous when you say a story. There is, you know, raise and fall of pitch, the pronunciation, the dialogue delivery, it all happens, and the students are learning it more. You know, they develop confidence to have public speeches. So now it's a glossary which has the slide speaks about the difficult words and its meaning. There's the assessment for this series, and you have write the definition of literacy given by UNESCO. So the second assessment is state the 2 goals stated by NCF 2005 pertaining to second language curriculum. Now what are the objectives of teaching English, prose, poetry, grammar? Okay, and the fourth question is list few of the objectives okay, of various aspects of English language. I hope your understanding pertaining to the topic is clear. Thank you.